could it be? Me, your man, Louis T. Welcome to Rep Your Squad, week number 8 in the National Football League. Really intriguing football matchups this week. And I think last night was a really good Sunday night game. We didn't expect to get that kind of performance out of Matt Moore and that Chiefs football team. I actually thought Matt Moore could play well, and he did. I thought he was going to turn it over more than he did last night. Did not throw an interception the entire night. I thought he was going to turn it over at least once. Thought that Packers pass rush would create some issues for him and force him to make an errant throw or two. And he really took care of the football last night. Unfortunately, it wasn't his turnover that was the difference maker, but rather Shady McCoy's fumble that really ultimately helped spark the Packers to take the lead in the second half and really never relinquish it. But week number 8 was really fun to watch. The Bears game was very intriguing. I think Matt Nagy is starting to grow very, very thin on some Chicago Bears fans. That play call that he had right before the missed field goal to take a knee, instead, it was 41 seconds and the Bears had a timeout. And he decided to take a knee and force a 41-yard field goal instead of running another. He could have run 2 more plays, 2 more run plays. And they were having success on the ground. David Montgomery had a magnificent day, a breakout day. After, remember, Matt Nagy had been criticized for not running the ball enough. Well, they pounded the hell out of the rock against the Chargers, and David Montgomery went well over 100 yards. I think he was somewhere in the neighborhood of $140 in that football game. But that's just a bad. And look, I don't want to put it all on him. His kicker, Pinheiro, needs to make that kick from 41 yards. But still, get as close as you can possibly get. You're the Bears. You've had kicking woes since last year. Get as close as you can get. Bad decision by him. Came back to bite him as they lose to the Chargers, who desperately needed a win and were able to get one against Chicago. I think that was the biggest heartbreak of week number 8. The biggest statement of week 8 was the San Francisco 49ers just destroying, utterly disassembling, the Carolina Panthers in San Francisco, 51-13. There was so much talk about Josh Allen and how he needed to be the starter and how they needed to trade Cam Newton away and this, that, and the third. I think a lot of that was put to rest this week with that ass whooping that they got. That was an extravagant ass whooping too. I mean, shoes, coat, and your hat took in. Nice old-fashioned ass whooping, and that was fun to watch though. As Nick Bosa is making a case for Defensive Rookie of the Year, and that 49ers defense is gaining confidence as the weeks progress. Got a call, gonna go ahead and take it though. You're on live with your man Louis T. Who am I speaking with?
Hey, this is JCamman99.
What's going on, JCam man? What's going on? Rep your squad.
Not much.
Rep your squad.
All right, so obviously I'm calling about the Bills.
Yes.
And this week is actually not just because we're playing the Redskins, but it's a pretty big week for us.
Yeah.
And I'll explain. We are 5-2 right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we win this week, we're 6-2.
When
If
you
we
win,
lose, we're 5-3. Obviously.
when you win this
But the
week, you'll
point
be
is,
6-2.
We haven't been 6-2 since the year we went to Super Bowl 28.
Oh, okay.
The Bills have never been that good
Okay.
since then. So if we win this week, we might actually go somewhere this year. If we lose this week, it's kind of like any other Bills season.
So I'll stop you there. It's not if, it's when you win this week. You're going to win this week. Trust me. You are going to win this week. Now, how will you win? Will it look pretty? Will it be ugly? It really doesn't matter. That's semantics. You're going to win. Okay? It may not be, pretty. And I know a lot of Bills fans, and I was kind of in that community really heavy a couple of weeks ago after you beat the Dolphins, because there were a lot of Bills fans that were upset. Oh, how could we allow the Dolphins to be this close? I really don't care. Just win. Okay? At the end of the day, that's a family member. Okay? They know you more intimately than anybody else, so you can throw the records out the window. They're going to play you tough because they know you. So winning every game in the division is precious. I don't give a damn if it's the Jets, the Bills, the Dolphins, the Patriots. It doesn't matter who it is. It's a division game. So those really are going to be tough to win. Doesn't matter who the opponent is. So with that being said, the fact that you're 5-2 speaks volumes as to how far this team has come. And I always felt like this was a team that could do what they're doing this year. If you go back to 2 years ago when you made the postseason and snapped that horrid streak of not making the postseason since '99, it was the same formula that you have this year, and it was Tyrod Taylor not turning the ball over, doing just enough offensively, great defense, run the football, win football games. I think it's a little bit more advanced this time around. Last year, you were missing the quarterback piece, okay? Defense was still solid. Wasn't as good as the year previous or this year, but it was still good enough for you to win more than of the games that you lost last year. But this year, I look at this team. I love your defense. I think your defense is one of the better defensive units in football. Now, I knew you were going to lose, and if you listen to my podcast, I told you were going to lose that game. I knew you were going to lose that game. And that was more about Philly and less about you. Philly was the desperate team. Okay, they came into that game. They could not afford to fall to 3-5 on the season. The NFC is way too competitive for that. The last time Philadelphia's back was up against the ball like that was week 4 when they had a chance to fall to 1-3. They went on the road and gave the Packers their only loss of the season. So I knew they were going to come out desperate. And after being embarrassed the way that they were on Sunday night, they were going to come out with something to prove. And they did. But I know a lot of Bills fans are still questioning whether Josh Allen is the guy. And I'm a Josh Allen fan, you know that. I think he is perfect for this team. And he's continuing to progress. Yes, there are some things that he needs to do. Like that fumble yesterday was backbreaking. Can't have it. But all in all, he's going to continue to grow. And you got to keep in mind that there are a lot of moving pieces and parts around him. Cole Beasley is new. John Brown is new. They just got rid of Zay Jones. There's a lot of moving parts. I told you Dawson Knox. Anybody that would listen, Dawson Knox is going to be a hell of a tight end in this league. But he's brand new. These are all moving parts. You got an offensive line that continues to shuffle around. I love this team. I want to see Devin Singletary get more carries, get more touches, get more opportunities.
I agree there. I was really surprised how, we all like Frank Gore. There's a huge Frank Gore following right now in Buffalo. But, when I saw what his numbers were, I was why didn't we give him the ball more?
The dude is so electric every time he touches it. He's so dynamic. Can you remind me, did his touchdown, it counted, never mind. I thought that got called back, but it didn't.
No, it counted. It was definitely a weird play.
Yeah.
I was actually at the game, and I remember when he scored, I was like, oh, all right, we scored. It was just a very interesting play that happened.
Right.
You just expected it to be like a 3-yard play, and I'm like, oh, good touchdown, great. But yeah, I believe it was a pass play. I don't even think it was a run.
It was.
If I recall.
Yeah, I think he got out into the flats. They got him the ball, and he got loose, and then he started high-stepping it like the 10, and then he juked the defender, cut inside, and ended up getting into the end zone. He's so dynamic. I don't understand this infatuation. Everywhere Frank Gore goes, he ends up starting and taking most of the touches, and I'm like, what is this infatuation with Forever Frank? I love him just as much as the next man, but you got a budding star here, and I get it. He's dealt with injuries this year, but to me...
Well, I think what it is he had the hamstring injury.
Yeah.
Week 2 against the Giants at the very end of the game when the game was over.
Right.
And then he was out for a few weeks.
Yep.
And I think they're slowly trying to bring him back because I think, I can't even remember my own team, unfortunately, here, but I think the first 2 weeks he was the starter going into the game. It wasn't Frank Gore. I believe it was Singletary both times. And now it's kind of switched. They've kind of switched places. But I think part of that's the hamstring injury. And I think Frank Gore's just done well, quite frankly. So I think they're sticking with what they've gotten. It's funny, I learned a couple weeks ago that Frank Gore has been the leading rusher, I guess, every season he's been in the league. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, no.
Yeah.
That's probably going to happen again,
Yep.
which means that we're not going to use Singletary as much as we should be.
Yeah, it's going to come at Singletary's expense, and that's unfortunate. But I think he needs to see more opportunities. And so I really like him. I'm intrigued by this Bills team because I love your defense. They fly around. They're physical. They're fast. Tre'Davious White is underrated. I think this is a really good Bills defense.
Tre'Davious White has single-handedly saved 2 of these games this year.
Yes.
The Bengals game, I was there again. Dalton was driving down the field.
Yep.
They probably would have gotten their first and only victory of the season
Yep.
if Trey White doesn't intercept that ball at the end. And then last week with Fitzpatrick, if they go up 21-9, I don't know if we make that comeback.
Right.
Trey White interception
Yep.
from Fitzpatrick right at the end zone.
Yep. Yep,
That's 2 times where Trey White bailed us out.
He's been phenomenal, man. He's one of the most underrated corners in football right now. Not enough people know his name and know what he's out there doing. But I think that this Bills team has a chance to be. Somebody asked me last night, who are your under the radar teams in both conferences, and one of those teams for me is Buffalo. You know, despite the loss yesterday, I saw that one coming, and I don't take anything because if you watch that game, it was a weird game with ebbs and flows, and to me, it all kind of changed on the fumble by Josh Allen, and obviously,
that was a huge momentum swing there.
yeah,
Right?
humongous. I mean, yep, they had the big run to start the second half, but you were able to respond with the touchdown drive of your own. But it just you never really were able to recapture what you had going early on in the game after that fumble. So I think you've got a great chance to at least make New England work because I think their schedule is going to ratchet up here over the next 4 weeks. I think they're going to drop a couple of ball games, and it's what you do in that time frame.
You seem really confident on that, I got to say.
I'm telling you right now, there's a reason. J-Cam, listen to me. There's a reason New England is trying to be so aggressive at the trade deadline. When have you ever seen New England this desperate for help at receiver? They know that their offense isn't hitting on all cylinders. It's their defense that has been really. I mean, look at your game. To me, is the perfect microcosm for their season. Their special team scored the only touchdown of that game for them. They did not score a single offensive touchdown in that game. Like, they haven't seen a defense like that except for your game this season. And look what they were able to do. Nothing. So when they see better defenses, I really think they're going to struggle offensively. Now, their defense is good. They are legit defensively, but they're not lights out like everybody thinks. So I really feel like when they start seeing these better teams, they got the Ravens on the road. This is going to be interesting to see because I know Belichick's going to try to take away Lamar Jackson and his ability to run. So he's going to force Lamar to throw it, and I want to see what happens. But that's going to be an interesting game. The Chiefs game is going to be interesting. The Cowboys game is going to be interesting. They've got some toughies coming up. I want to see how they respond. But it's what you do in that stretch that I think is going to ultimately determine whether you have a chance to make them sweat or if they clinch the division in like week 13.
I mean, I'm telling you, man, I wish I had your confidence even in my own team because it's not so much. Okay, I'll tell you real quick. I did a playoff scenario situation where I looked at like every matchup now to the end of the season, and I basically went very conservative. Like, how bad do the Bills have to do to not get in the playoffs, right? Like, that's basically where I went with this. And essentially, if the Bills lose to the Dolphins, Jets, and Browns, they don't get in. If they essentially win one of those, they get in. So, pretty good chances the Bills make the playoffs here. It's just every game has been not easy.
Right.
You know, not as easy as you think. Now, wins are wins.
Right.
I will never get mad about a win.
Right.
But every one of those games could have been could have gone the other way. Like, and in that situation, we'd be talking a completely different season here.
Right. But that's the NFL every year. It's a fine line between 10-6 and 6-10. You know that. It's better than anybody does. That, you know, it's a play here, it's a play there, it's a call here, it's a call there that goes in your favor. And that's what makes you 10-6 versus being 8-8 or 6-10. So this is your year to be 11-5, to be 10-6. You're going to make the postseason because the AFC isn't very strong as a conference as a whole. You look at the conference, and you've got to really wet the bed the final 8 games of the season to not end up with 9 or 10 wins because that's all it's going to take to get in. To be honest with you, it's probably a strong 9 with you defeating some of the other teams looking to get in and winning the tiebreaker. But I think you're going to get to 10, honestly. I think you're good enough to get to 10, maybe even 11, depending on the strength of your schedule and how the rest of your schedule shakes out. But the fact that you play the Dolphins again, the fact that you haven't even used either of your Jet games, have you? Not yet, right?
No, we played them the first week.
First week, that's right. Week 1 when you had to come back. That's right.
16, we came back.
And so they got to come to Buffalo. So you got that's 2 winnable football games there. You got the Redskins. That's a win this week. So you're trending in the direction of 10, 11 wins. That's going to be more than enough to get you in an AFC that is right now average at best. So I like your chances.
I hope you're right. Let's put it that way because Yeah, it would be nice to get in and feel like a normal playoff team because I love the fact we broke the streak 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But that was really lots of dominoes fell and the Bills.
Yeah, of course, obviously.
Like it would be really nice because like right now we're slated to get in as the 5th seed, not the 16th,
Right.
but like the 5th seed.
Yeah.
And that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Then I would feel like we'd actually have a chance going against whoever the 4th seed team is.
Right, and nobody wants to backdoor. I mean, you'll take it, but nobody wants to backdoor their way in. Nobody wants to go around to the back of the playoff building and got to talk to the security guard to get in. You know,
Right.
I want to walk in the front door with all the rest of the guys, and so
Exactly.
you're going to have a chance to
'cause,
do
like,
that
look,
this year.
I mean, and that was the other thing too, because like we've been waiting for the playoffs for so long, and then that Jaguars game was so fast.
It
You
was.
know, it was just like 10-3 and it's over.
It was over.
There
Yep.
goes the playoff run.
Right.
And it's like I want that feeling of winning a playoff game because like that's been oh my god, last time we won a playoff game, I want to say it was 95, 96.
Yeah.
So 23 years, 24 years.
It's been a while, and I'm gonna tell you right now, you're probably gonna end up playing the winner of the AFC South, and if that's the case, that's a very winnable football game.
Well, let me ask you about that. What do you think about the Chiefs now? Like, do you think they're going to rebound and get back up to second or third? Or
Yeah,
do you see
yeah,
them
they're not
dropping
gonna.
possibly to fourth?
I mean, just the fact that the way that they competed last night shows you that this isn't a team that's going to just fall by the wayside. Like for one, their division is horrible. So they got the Raiders at home. They're gonna beat them most likely. Now the Raiders are no pushover, but they're gonna beat the Raiders. The Broncos are self-destructing right before our eyes. Joe Flacco is out for the foreseeable future with a neck injury. They've got them again in Kansas City once again, so they're gonna beat them. And then they got the Chargers, who I don't know what Chargers team they're going to get to show up, but I don't have much confidence in the Chargers, and I never did. So they're going to end up winning 11 games or so, 12 games when it's all said and done. I think 12 is gone now that they've already lost 3 games, but I can see them winning 11 games, 10 at the worst this season. But I still think that the AFC South is going to beat the hell out of each other and end up with a 9-7, 10-6 division winner. So when it's all said and done, I think you're going to ultimately play the winner of the AFC South. That's what I think is going to happen. As they sit there at 5-3, the Colts are 5-2, and the Texans are 5-3. But a lot of their games haven't come against one another yet. I think they've been playing a lot of games outside of the division, and so they're going to beat the hell out of each other eventually. So.
Yeah, so I'm hoping, because I would love to get just past them, because like. I realize that after that, it's more than likely New England, and that's probably where. So, and it's weird because, though, like you were talking earlier, like I keep on thinking of like, and I'm being very realistic here. I'm not being a homer when I say this. I keep thinking realistically, like, okay, who could really take the Patriots down before they get to the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
And like you said earlier, like out of all the games I've seen of the Patriots this year, the Bills have played them the best.
Right.
The Bills have come the closest to actually beating them. And I'm thinking, oh my God, like in the divisional playoffs, it might not just be the Bills being there and me being happy about that, but it might be an opportunity for the Bills to take out the Patriots.
Yeah.
Which I would love.
Yeah. Now you got to keep in mind too.
The NFL a favor.
You know, what would be the thing you got to keep in mind though is that game would be in Foxborough. I want to see. I want to see how you guys do later in the year up in Foxborough because. The 2 times you really played them really tough, like last year, which was just, I felt so bad for you guys because the quarterback position was so bad because I think you were on you coached, what's his face out of like retirement or something. It was ridiculous because you had so many injuries.
You mean Derek Anderson?
Yes.
Like during the Monday night game?
Yes. I mean, the defense played their asses off and you couldn't move the ball 6 inches in that game because your quarterback play was so bad. But you were in it because the defense was playing so well. And so those games are in Buffalo, though. You know, when you go to Foxborough, it's usually a different situation. So I want to see how it goes when you go to Foxborough a little bit later on.
Yeah, they've been putting us at week 16 with them for some reason, which for me is always a pain in the butt because it's literally like when my family celebrates Christmas. So football's always off during gift openings, and the last 2 years that's been the way it is. Like, turn off the TV, Jared. And then they open up the gifts, and then I find out what happens later. But yeah, this year, though, like, usually it's kind of a throwaway loss game, to be 100% honest with you. Like, I'm always like, okay, they lost that game.
It'll be interesting
to
for
see
sure,
what they
J-Cam,
end up
man.
doing with it. I would love them to move one of our games to Sunday night. I don't think it's going to happen though, because I looked at the schedule and I'm just like, I don't. The only one they might move is Baltimore, but I think there's even another matchup that week that looks better than Bills Ravens that week, and so I was like, they're not going to move.
You never know, man. You know how this season is. You look ahead and you think these teams are going to be good. This team or this matchup might be better, and then you might show up and that might be the best game on the docket that week. You never know. We'll see. But
yeah, that would be nice. It's just like, cause I'm telling you right now, the Jets have been on primetime way too much this year.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? The Bills getting nothing.
Yeah.
Like
But see, they were trying to predict. They were trying to predict the Jets. They did it last year with the 49ers. They were a year too early on the 49ers, where they try to predict that this team's going to be good with the move for Le'Veon Bell and Sam Darnold in year 2, and they get Adam Gase, and they just felt like, okay, here come the Jets. Greg Williams is the defensive coordinator. They're going to be really good this year, team to watch, and they were wrong. So, I was disappointed that you didn't get a primetime game. You're only going to get the Thanksgiving game, which I consider a primetime game, but it's not technically primetime. So, but in any event, hey man, J-Cam, man, thank you for joining me and repping your squad, man. And I'm looking forward to chopping it up with you in the future, man. Have a good one.
All right, yeah, you too, man. Take care.
So, J-Cam, man, massive Bills fan. I really like the Bills. As you can tell, you heard me talking about them. I really like the Bills and think that they're going to have a good season and have a chance to compete come postseason time. I think they're a really underrated team. I think my man KT, the Southern Gent, last night asked me about what teams were underrated in both conferences. And the Bills are one of those teams in the AFC that really no one's talking about. The Colts are another team, even though I'm not as bullish on the Colts as I am the Bills, because that defense in Buffalo is legit. But nonetheless, I really think the Bills are a good football team. But in any event, got a call, going to take it. You're on live with your man, Louis T. Who am I speaking with?
You're speaking with Jason Fields.
What's going on, Jason, man? Rep your squad.
Hey, love your show. Just wanted to ask you a question about the Giants.
Okay. Yep.
So, of course, the Giants today got Leonard Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear about that?
Yes, absolutely. Saw that deal.
So my question is, what do you think Leonard Williams will do for this defense? Because, of course, sorry about that, he was the number 6 pick in the draft by the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
He, of course, goes to the Giants.
Yep.
What do you think he'll add to the Giants?
First of all, I was shocked. And I had heard rumors. Jay Glazer did his Ask Jay segment over the weekend. And one of the questions was, do you think the Giants are going to make a big deal before the trade deadline? And he said, yeah, I think they are going to make a move. And he said, hey, look, Leonard Williams to New York sounds really plausible. I've been hearing rumblings about it. I was like, no way. But when you look at the Jets' situation along their defensive line, it's loaded. They've spent a lot of draft capital on guys along that defensive front. They like McClendon, who's down there playing good ball for them. They just drafted Quinnen Williams. They feel like they've got an abundance of talent, and also don't forget the kid they drafted out of Shepherd, the small school a couple of years ago, and so they've got a bunch of guys along that defensive line, and so somebody had to go. There was an odd man out type of feel with Leonard Williams, and I don't think they were going to re-sign him. And so they understood that, why not get something for him while we can. And this guy at times he's dominant. Now, there was this whole thing about, an injury history coming into the league out of USC, which is why he went from, number 1 overall to, down to number 6. But the dude is super talented. And when you look at the Giants defense, you got X-Man coming off the edge. I love him. I think Carter is a guy that can get to the quarterback a little bit. I think they need to turn him loose a little bit more. But in the middle, you drafted the kid out of Clemson this year, who's a Lawrence. That's Dexter Lawrence, who's a big run stuffer. But I think he actually can be a little bit more aggressive in the pass game as well. You look at all the guys. You got the B.J. Hill from NC State, who has been playing exceptional for you the first 2 years of his career. You add Leonard Williams to that mix, and I think it's a very formidable front. And I think what Williams will provide for you is a little bit of the ability to get to the quarterback on obvious passing situations. I think the Giants lack that on the interior right now. They don't have a true threat. You know, Hill was the best you had. I think Williams is better than him. And I think that's what he brings to the table, is a guy that can give you some more presence on the interior and help those edge rushers hit home. And now all of a sudden, you know, on obvious passing downs, you get a guy in Leonard Williams that can get after the quarterback. But also, in that same breath, I think he is a really underrated run defender too. So when he's right, he is a difference maker. And I think that's what you just landed yourself.
Yeah, I like him too because, you know, didn't he get double-digit sacks in 2016?
I'm not sure if he hit double digits. I can look that up right now, though. I think he was close. I thought he was somewhere like in that 8 range, but let's check. I don't want to lie to you, but I think he's.
No, it's okay. Take your time.
Oh, no. You go ahead. Keep talking, though, while I look it up.
No, I was saying because, you know, the one thing Dave Gettleman did when he was in Carolina, he built that defensive front seven.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he had Kuechly. He drafted Kuechly.
Mm-hmm.
He drafted Shaq Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
He drafted Kawan Short and the kid in Buffalo, Licha Lele.
Yeah.
So you see that, and that's why I'm confident in Gettleman, at least in that front. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know how he does with the quarterbacks and the receivers,
Right.
but you definitely see that he can build the defensive line.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that you can really trust him.
And that's why when the trade was made, and to answer your initial question, he had 7 sacks in 2016. But
Okay.
Gettleman has always been, and this has been his philosophy going all the way back to his Buffalo days. You build from within, both sides of the ball, offensive line, defensive line, and then you fan out. That's always been Gettleman's theory. That's always been his philosophy, and he's executed that wherever he's been. As you mentioned in Carolina, the strength of that team was up front. And like you said, their front seven was phenomenal in Carolina when they were at their best. And everybody ridiculed the ODB trade and, you know, talked about all of the things that they were doing this offseason. And I said, I want to give it a chance to breathe. And I want to see what happens with the players that he selects in the draft and some of the moves that are made. And I can tell you right now, Jabril Peppers looks like a steal. Okay? He's been playing phenomenal
Best
football.
player on defense right now.
Yes. I mean, he made another play this past week versus the Lions. Forcing a fumble. This dude is everywhere for the Giants this year. And so that looks like a win right there, trading him out of there for Landon Collins essentially and bringing him in. I think this is a team that is building. And even Darius Slayton, you know, I don't think that a lot of Giants fans were looking for a lot from him. But he had a monster game. Maybe this is the beginning of something big for him moving forward. 2 touchdowns in the game, made some plays. Now, he's going to drop the football, and you saw that in that same game. That was the knock on him coming out of Auburn. But this is a Giants team that they're interesting because there are a lot of young pieces on this football team.
Definitely agreed. And I just want to get one more question for you.
Yep.
It's about Jones. So Daniel Jones throws, 4 touchdowns against the Lions.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes out against the Patriots. And granted, it's the Patriots.
Right.
It's the best secondary in the league. But he goes out, has a kind of mediocre game.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I see a lot of, Kirk Cousins in him.
Mm-hmm.
In that he'll ball out one week and then he'll kind of, against a much greater opponent, he'll go out and not really do much. What do you think that his ceiling is? Or what do you think that he can be in a few years? Because he's been surprising to me, but I don't know. I think that he's going to need a lot around him, kind of like Kirk Cousins, in order to go far.
I honestly felt like he was an Eli Manning clone. I honestly believe that he's got the same demeanor as Eli Manning. He idolizes Eli Manning. And I think there are a lot of redeeming qualities now. Obviously, way more athletic than Eli ever was. And I think he's a guy that, unlike Kirk Cousins, when the moment is big and he can shrink at times, I don't know if that's Daniel Jones or not. I mean, I look at the Tampa Bay game. There were some big moments in that game, and he didn't shrink. He rose. You know what I mean? And we've seen that from Eli Manning in his career. Obviously, the Super Bowls against New England are as big as they get, and Eli saved his best for those particular games. And I just see a lot of Eli Manning in him. I don't know if he's going to turn it over as much as Eli did because we know there were some 20 interception seasons in there with Eli. But I tell you this much. Daniel Jones is a guy you can win with in this league, I believe, after watching him. And I didn't have the most glowing review of him coming out of Duke. I wasn't sold on him like some others might have been. But after watching him, I know when I see a guy that can play in this league and play at a high enough level, and he can play in this league at a high enough level, and you can win with Daniel Jones. And the Patriots game, to me, was an aberration. First of all, he's young, so you're going to have games like that in a rookie season. It was a short week, and everybody imaginable for the Giants was out in that game. He really didn't have a lot of help. So it was going to be a rough game for him regardless. And then you add to the fact that it's Bill Belichick, and he's a mastermind, and he knows how to, scheme up defenses to get after young guys that really don't know all that can be thrown at you in an NFL game. And so, he was going to kind of force the issue a bit. But I see Daniel Jones' ceiling being a guy like Eli Manning in this league. I really do. I think he can win you games and get you to the postseason and possibly get you to a Super Bowl. Now, obviously, you're going to need talent around him. And Eli needed talent around him. And the defense had to be great. Those years that you won the Super Bowl, especially in 2007, the defense was legit in that season. In 2011, not as much, but there still was talent around Eli. You're going to have to build a talented group. Like, I don't think Daniel Jones is necessarily a guy that can put a team on his back. And I think that's what you were alluding to with Kirk Cousins. Don't think he's a guy that can put the team on his back. But if you put a good enough roster around him, and the fact that he will be playing most of his career with Saquon Barkley is great, because he'll never really, if Barkley's healthy, he'll never really have to put the team solely on his back, because Barkley is such a home run threat every time he touches it that I think he'll have enough of a supporting cast to give him an opportunity to succeed in this league. So
yeah, and that's why I'm feeling a little more optimistic. Obviously, there's been a pretty pessimistic ride the last couple of years, but I'm feeling a little optimistic because if we have the quarterback right, I feel that Gettleman can put together that defense. Because he showed he can do it in Carolina. Now, obviously, 2015 Cam Newton is not going to be what Daniel Jones is.
right.
But if you can just put that defense together, starting with, you have Williams, you have Lawrence, you have Marcus Golden, who's been amazing for us this year.
Yeah, he has.
Out of nowhere from Arizona.
Yep.
If you can just put those defensive and offensive lines together, I think we might have something.
And that's the key, is being able to put all the pieces of the puzzle together at the right time to be able to maximize your chances to win. And if you can do that, you'll have a chance in New York. And I was surprised that they were a buyer at the trade deadline, but they're looking towards the future, and I like that. I do.
I don't know if I call them a buyer, just because if you see someone you got to get, even if you're the Dolphins, if you see someone with that amount of talent for that amount of value, I'd go get him.
Yeah, but what you're not going to see is the Dolphins go out and acquire anybody, because they're looking to sell, because they're looking to acquire assets for the draft. And I just thought that's what the Giants were going to do, or if anything, that's what they would be looking to do. But they acquired a piece that I think could help them moving forward, and so we'll see what happens with that.
Hey, I gotta go.
Yeah,
Thank you
man.
very much, Lou. Sorry about your Redskins.
Hey, no apologies over here, man. We did this to ourselves, man. Hey, you have a good one.
You too.
Yep.
Thanks.
So, I was shocked that the Giants made that move. I probably shouldn't have been, but I was. I didn't see that coming, but I talked about it on my podcast, Louis T Network podcast. For those of you who aren't checking it out or haven't checked it out, what are you waiting on? I talked about the trade deadline. We're going to talk about it more on this week's episode of the Louis T Network podcast, but I talked about some names that could move. I didn't think that Leonard Williams was one of those names that would move and change teams. I didn't think the Giants would be a major player, and here we are, Giants trading for Leonard Williams, and I think that's a really good move by the New York Giants. Got a call, going to go ahead and take it. You're on live with your man Louis T. Who am I speaking with?
It's Emperor Meech, man. What's good?
What's going on, Emperor Meech?
What's up, man?
Man, rep your squad, bro.
I got the day off, so I'm able to tune into this today. So,
all right, man, rep your squad, bro.
The Giants, even though they're trash, but I'm still rep them. I'm always gonna rep them, no matter what.
So how you feel about
Go ahead.
How you feel about the trade today? Before you start.
I'm 50-50 on it.
Okay.
Because on one hand, the people keep talking about, the Giants having 2 third-round picks. I'm like, that's a comp pick projection, like, because of Landon Collins letting him go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that's a projection. You don't know for sure it's going to be a third-rounder. It probably will.
It is.
But I'm
It's
like,
going to end up being a third-round
the
pick.
pick you gave up, the third-rounder, I'm like, that's the top 10 third-round pick. That's a top 70 or so pick. So it's like, and then it's like, it's an 8-game rental potentially. It's just like, I'm like, we'll have to see, man.
Yeah.
It's just iffy.
Right.
Because I'm like, I don't see, if this was the Eagles, because I heard Leonard Williams is projected to go to the Eagles possibly,
Mm-hmm.
it would make more sense. But for me, it's like, you should be selling because you're not a good team. You're 2-6. You easily be 1-7.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and then you got to turn around and pay him big money. And I know a lot of Giants fans are talking about Dave Gettleman having all this money next offseason. I don't trust him with it. I don't trust him with it at all.
I'm gonna tell you right now, if Gettleman is going to spend money, it's going to be in the trenches, one side of the ball or the other. He always has been a stickler for building up the lines, the trenches, wherever he's been. So
Right.
it doesn't shock me that he made this move, but I think he wants to see if Leonard Williams fits in what they're doing schematically, and if he does, then you may pay him in the offseason. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Like, he had his best years on the top ball, so we'll see. It's a 3-4 defense now under James Bettcher, who he's getting roasted. I mean, rightfully so, but at the same time, I'm like, what impact playmakers do they have on the defense? Like, everybody wants them fired. It's like, who do they have?
Exactly.
Like,
I agree.
Who do they have?
I agree. And Jabril Peppers has been a revelation for you. You know what I mean? But outside of him, I mean, it hasn't been, a lot of guys out there that are household names that you expected production from this season. It's a young team, really. I mean, you got Baker out there. You got X-Man. You got a lot of young guys. You got Marcus Golden, who, as the last caller talked about, he has been really good for you this year. But he was coming off of an injury in Arizona. And so you got a really young defense. Dexter Lawrence is a young guy. B.J. Hill, relatively young. It's just a young team. Janoris Jenkins is a guy that I thought would potentially be traded. If anything, I thought you would be sellers.
He probably still will be traded.
We'll see. I thought he was a guy that would be on the block and be moved. If anything, I didn't expect the Giants to be actually acquiring a guy. I thought they would be actually moving people. So that's what was most shocking to me. But go ahead, man.
I think they're going to trade him because they want to get this Sam Beal kid out there. He's been hurt for the past season and a half, so they want to see what they got in him. I mean, you spent the third round supplementary draft pick on him.
Yeah.
You might as well see what you have.
Absolutely.
But then, there's other holes in the team with the offensive line. People were saying trade Nate Solder. Yeah, he's not a good left tackle. He's average at best. But it's like, okay, if you trade him, then what's the backup plan?
Right. You still got to protect. You still got to protect your quarterback for the remaining 8 games of the season.
Exactly. It's like, okay, if you trade him, then who's going to take over Chad Wheeler? It's like, stop it.
Yeah.
You're being irrational right now.
Yeah.
The center can use the upgrade. Mike Remmers is old and he has back issues going back to Minnesota earlier in his career. So it's like the offensive line can still use a makeover. And to answer, like the last caller, he asked like what Daniel Jones' ceiling is. That's interesting because I was actually reading something like back to the draft, and Daniel Jeremiah said like his comparison was as high as Matt Ryan, but as low as Ryan Tannehill, which is his most common comparison to Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, that was my comp.
You said what?
That was my comp coming into the draft was Ryan Tannehill. That's who he looked like.
Yeah, I know. I remember watching the video. I know a lot of people say Ryan Tannehill, and I've said it numerous times on the show. I do not like Ryan Tannehill.
Right.
But it's like I don't know. Like watching him play, he's a turnover machine at the moment. And that's something he had issues with going back to Duke, especially with fumbles.
Yep.
But it's like watching him play. It's like there are times where he can run more, and he just stands in the pocket and just stares down the gun barrel a little bit too much.
Right.
He takes unnecessary hits and sacks, especially like in that Cardinals game.
Yep.
And it's like you can move. Like you're not. I know you like Eli Manning, but it's like unlike him, you can actually get out and move.
Right.
Like use your legs and extend plays.
Yep.
And I don't think he does that now. Pat Shurmur, like I told you during the divisional predictions, I'm not really a fan of him because it's like he when people criticize him about his decision making, he gets real defensive and then he's reactive. So if he doesn't do one thing 1 week and people question him about it, he'll turn around and do the opposite thing that people recommend him to do the week after. It's like he's all over the place. And I wish he would stop challenging these pass interferences because it's like
they're not going to change it.
Purposely not trying to overturn those calls. It's like I think the Colts one this week was like the one that they finally overturned.
Yeah.
They're not trying to overturn them. You're wasting timeouts doing this. It's like, stop.
Yeah. I mean, teams are getting smart. Like, I saw Gruden, he wanted to challenge a couple of them. He actually did challenge one, and I said, dude, you haven't learned your lesson. Then he was going to challenge another one in the second half, and he kept it. And I didn't watch the whole game at that point. I had just jumped in, and I said, good job, John, way to be, smart about it, because they're not going to overturn it. But I didn't know, and I watched the whole game today. And he had challenged something in the first half and lost. And I'm like, these coaches got to understand, they're trying to get you not to challenge these. They don't want to overturn them.
They don't want that rule.
Right. So they're trying to dissuade you from challenging these plays, so stop wasting your time out. But the Colts one was egregious. Dude literally grabbed his entire arm and stopped T.Y. from having a chance to catch the ball. They had no choice but to overturn that one.
And the thing is, like, I keep telling people, like, people don't know that this is only a 1 year, like a test trial for it. Kind of like what the NBA is doing with the whole challenge thing as well.
Yep.
This is a 1 year test run from what I've understand so far.
Yep, exactly.
So, and it's like they don't want to overturn those calls. They don't want to do it.
Nope.
So it's like, yeah, you can do it, but it's like, and we've seen blatant, obvious pass interference, but they're like, nah.
Yeah. Call on the field
but
stands.
it's like he keeps burning them. So, but overall, the Giants, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what their exact direction is. Are they trying to be like kind of like the Bills with Sean McDermott and he has ties to Dave Gettleman, building up the defense, and then have some solid talent around your quarterback? Or are they going to be? I think looking at the roster, they're more closer offensively than defensively. So it's like, well, do you build up the offense more around Daniel Jones? As of right now, they don't have a legitimate wide receiver that can stretch the field. Yeah, Darius Slay can do that a little bit, but he's like a wide receiver 3.
Yeah. I'm
a guy that really frightens you, especially as a cornerback or a safety that say, okay, this guy can go deep. They don't have that guy.
I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to have to get lucky. Looking at Dave Gettleman and his track record, ask any Carolina Panthers fan, I can tell you just from watching him over the years, you're going to have to get lucky at receiver because he's not going to spend a first-round pick. He doesn't believe in spending a first-round pick on a wide receiver. And so
I think his only wide receiver they took in the first round was Kelvin Benjamin. We see how that went. Well,
yeah,
a little bit is on Kelvin, but that's a whole nother
right.
story.
I mean, that's not what he likes to do.
He had that outlier the year he got fired, where he drafted Christian McCaffrey and then took Curtis Samuel, who was like a gadget guy.
Yep.
But it's like wide receiver, I'm like, Devin Funchess of the world said he drafted Kelvin Benjamin. So I'm like,
Yeah, it's not going to be pretty for you at receiver. You're going to need more of these Slaytons to step up. You know what I mean? And like you said, he had a 2-touchdown game this week against the Lions, but the knock on him coming out of Auburn was he can run, he can make some plays, but he's also going to drop the ball, and he had a drop. Like you're going to have to take that from him. That's who he is as a football player. So
the thing is, they was also rumored to possibly be trading Evan Ingram. I'm like, so
I don't believe
you do that.
You can't do that.
Because I'm like, that's going to be even worse for Daniel Jones. Because I'm like, he's like the number one pass option.
Yeah.
Outside of Golden Tate now, but he's like the only one with like any speed.
Yeah, no way. I can't see that. That'd be a foolish move if you ask me.
Well, he's not a Dave Gettleman draft pick. He's a Jerry Reese draft pick. He's not Dave Gettleman is when it comes to people that are nice picks.
Right. You're absolutely right.
Get him out the door.
You're right. That's exactly the situation with Dave Gettleman. And he's not alone in that. A lot of GMs like to do that.
Yeah, he is. But he's one of those hardcore GMs.
Oh yeah. You know how I feel about Dave Gettleman. So I'm neutral toward him. Like, the Odell Beckham trade, I remember people coming to me like, oh, you mad about it? I'm like, I'm not mad about it. I'm like, it is what it is. Right.
I was more mad about the Landon Collins situation where it's like you let him walk when you could have traded him and got something for him.
Right.
And now you're potentially hoping to get a third-round compensatory pick.
Right.
It's like that made zero sense. And he's made a lot of questionable off-season moves as well. But it's like, that's why I don't trust him with that money that they projected to have. I'm like, I don't trust him. He'll probably do something like trying to give Jason Peters like a 5-year 4-year, $60 million contract. I'm like, I don't trust this dude with all that money.
Yeah.
Just looking at how he acts. Like, even like last year with the Jonathan Stewart signing, it's like people kept telling him, like, he can't play anymore. He's like, oh, no, he can still play. Dude, he's 31 years old. He's busted.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we can still sign him. They gave him a lot of money for being a 1-year mentor to Saquon Barkley. It's like, what's the point of that?
Yeah.
So he just makes a lot of head-scratching moves. Pat Shurmur, I try to give him a chance. He looks lost out there, and they're very predictable on offense now.
Yeah.
And it's just like the whole team is in shambles to me personally and has no guidance in what their clear plan is. We'll see about Daniel Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Some things he does is good, but his turnovers are like really ugly.
Yeah.
sometimes.
But
Like,
he's a rookie,
go see
man.
if you can clean him up.
Yeah, he's a rookie, and you can't tell me there aren't times where you look at him and you say, man, this dude, he has what it takes, man. He's pretty impressive. There are times, like that Lions game, you know, I'm watching him and he's throwing all these touchdown passes. I'm like, man, he got on a little roll there, and you're like, man, this dude, you know, he's got something, man. Like,
Yeah.
there are times where you're like, God, dude, don't do that. But, you know, that's almost any rookie, man. That's any rookie.
Yeah.
So,
Like before I get off, like just watching them, like they was talking about some of the numbers, like because like I was talking about Pat Shurmur being predictable on offense. They always run it like Saquon up the middle. First of all, speaking of Saquon for a quick moment, I don't think they do him enough justice by getting him out of space more.
yeah.
And I think they can use him as a receiver more, which they don't do for some very odd reason.
Right.
But Daniel Jones, like he'll make some plays. Like people even said this when you watch his Duke tape. He'll make some plays that make you go like, oh wow, this guy's legit.
Yeah.
A lot of old school scouts like Dave Gettleman and Gil Brandt thought he was very highly of him. But the new wave, like the Todd McShay, was like, and even he was like, nah, this guy, he was like kind of like a bum.
Yeah.
So, but he just has to be more consistent. He has good ball placement.
Yeah.
But if he can cut down on turnovers, then I think they might have some.
Yeah, I do too.
We'll see.
I do too. I think I might be wrong about him because remember I said he was Ryan Tannehill, and he may ultimately be Ryan Tannehill. But I've seen more from him in this short period of time than I did from Ryan Tannehill early on in his career to make me feel like maybe I was wrong about him. So we're gonna see, man.
I know for a fact in that Vikings game, I know Everson Griffin gave him props after the game because he was like, you know, he was beating him up all game. He kept getting up. I think he got sacked like 4 or 5 times in that game.
Yeah.
He kept getting up, didn't get phased, kept staring down the gun barrel, kept fighting. And I'm like, you know, that's a good trait to have. You know, he wasn't shocked or getting scared like some people like Tom Brady. You know, 'cause Tom Brady, you get some pressure on him, it's a wrap.
Yeah.
Like he kept fighting, and I'm like, okay, he might have something there. He has heart.
Yeah. No doubt.
We'll see, because I'm like, he shows some signs, but I'm like, at other times he's like, it's like I am watching the Eli Manning clone.
Yeah.
But it's like, if he uses his legs more sometimes, I think it would help him out more. Now the coaching staff has to help him out as well, but
Yeah.
if he uses his legs more to like extend plays, which he's capable of doing,
Mm-hmm.
I think he'd be better off.
Yeah. And
That's it, man. I want to get off the phone.
Yep.
I gotta go.
hey, man, I appreciate you chiming in, man. Don't be a stranger either, man. Take care.
All right, man. Yep.
All right. So back-to-back Giants callers, and I find the Giants. And first of all, that's family business right there. So I find the Giants very fascinating. Watching them, watching Daniel Jones, because obviously Daniel Jones and Dwayne Haskins will always be tied at the hip, similar to Marcus Mariota and Jameis Winston. Those two will be tied at the hip. You know, Dwayne Haskins made the statement, the league done messed up. Everyone thought he was going to be the Giants, you know, first-round draft pick at the quarterback position, and it ended up being Daniel Jones. And so they're always, to me, going to be tied at the hip. And so I've got it a somewhat of a investment in Daniel Jones and seeing how he does in New York, because obviously those two quarterbacks are going to be linked forever, I think, with one another. But I got a call. Going to go ahead and take it. You're on live with your man, Louis T. Who am I speaking with?
What up, Lou? It's your boy Devers, man. How you doing?
How you doing, man?
Man, can I request a Louis T timer, man? I feel like you a therapist on here talking to everybody.
Hey, I sometimes in my head I'm saying, all right, man, we got to go to the next call, but I you know how I am, man. I like talking ball, and so when I get somebody on and we just start talking, especially with these other teams, I don't get to talk about these other teams enough, because a lot of times the Redskins fans come on and they dominate, which is fine by me, but Yeah, I probably need to like 5 minutes a call.
That's what I was thinking. Ain't
You're
no one
right.
care about no Buffalo Bills. Ain't no one care about the Bills.
See, and look, while most people might not, you need to know, you need to expand your knowledge, okay?
Not when I'm trying to talk to my therapist.
Rep your squad, man.
Dude, man, I'm a Cowboys fan. It's been a crazy month. I got married this month.
Woo, and congratulations,
My
man.
therapist. I got married on the 5th. Had a beautiful wedding, everything.
Hey, congratulations, man.
Well, I wish the Cowboys would have done it that weekend because, that's when we started our losing streak.
Yeah. And I just talked to my dad, and we were talking, and I asked him what of those 3 games was the most disappointing. Which one do you think he said?
Man, I don't even know how to feel anymore with this team. The whole division, if you ask me, is really, really bad this year.
Oh, it is. I talked about that on my show, the Redskins Nightly News. I said,
I've been so busy. I've been missing so many of your podcasts and stuff. It's been such a crazy month.
Hey, man, look, it's all there for you. If you want to catch up, it's all there. I understand. Life happens, bro. Time waits for no man, and you go out and do what you need to do, man. But I talked about the division and how I hate when the division is this bad. I hate when we're the NFC least. That's where we are right now. And right now, the Eagles winning was big, kept them at 500, kept them in the race behind you guys. But yeah, the division is pretty down right now.
Yeah. Well, I have a couple quick questions. I'm not going to be on here a bunch with you. I know you've got a lot of calls. People love you. So, you had me talked into thinking Tristan Hill was going to be something. I know he's a rookie, but he hasn't shown me anything. He was rich. They didn't play in the first couple weeks.
Right. Look, I like Tristan Hill, and I know the talent's there, and that's why you took him in the second round. And the Cowboys, they are great evaluators of talent. And so the talent is there. There's no denying that this dude is uber talented. But remember, there was an issue, and I talked about this with him. And I said, remember Jerry Jones made him sign a contract that stated that he had to work. He had a work ethic contract. He had issues at where did he go? One of them Florida schools. I can't remember which one it was, but he had issues there. And
He went to that undefeated school a couple years ago.
yeah,
wasn't it?
UCF. That's what it was. I couldn't think of it.
Yeah.
Central Florida. He had issues there. Remember, he was a starter, and then they put him on the bench, and he wasn't starting anymore. Why did they do that? Because he had issues with work ethic and having a high motor. When the guy is locked in and dialed in, he's a problem. He can knife into your backfield. He's a one-gap penetrator. I loved him. But obviously he hasn't been putting in the time. He hasn't been putting in the work. They haven't been impressed with his practice habits and things of that nature. And I can tell you right now, Rod Marinelli is a stickler for practice. If you're not putting in the reps in practice, if you're not hustling in practice, you will not get in the game. And that's probably what's happening.
I got 2 more, then I'll let you go, sir.
All right.
How do you feel about the Michael Bennett trade? Because I honestly feel like I don't like him as a human being. Say he got on his truth, but I think he's a good situational pass rusher. He's not a starter anymore, in my opinion, but I think he could come in and spell.
Yeah. So to answer the first question we had, or I offered to you, it was the Green Bay Packers. My dad was most disappointed in the Green Bay Packers loss. So was I. But Michael Bennett, we talked about that as well when I was talking to him and my sister. And I think he's going to be a phenomenal addition to that football team because of what you just said. The guy can come in and be a difference maker on that defensive line in spurts. You're not asking him to start for you. You're not asking him to play a bunch of reps. But the ones that he comes in for, he can have meaningful reps for you, and he can get after the quarterback. And I think the Eagles actually miss him right now. So I think this is a great move for the Dallas Cowboys defensively.
Yeah, that's how I feel. And then my last one, I'm been nothing but a Dak supporter. I love him, but I'm honestly to the point where if he doesn't have both his tackles playing at a top level and at least Amari Cooper out there, it's not going to be good because that Jets game, I know there's no excuses. Players get hurt. I know you know all about that, but he was missing both his tackles. He didn't have Cobb. Gallup just got back, and Cooper left in the first 5 minutes of the game, and it was just pedestrian. But he came back in the second half, started slinging it, but still, man.
Look,
do you think he's gotten better?
He's gotten so much better. Dak Prescott, I first of all did not think he would ever reach the level that he's gotten to as an NFL quarterback. I've seen leaps and bounds strides from him this season. Like the light bulb has come on for him. He gets it. I mean, even that Jets game, if you watch that game, there were some drop passes in that game. Like, that wasn't all Dak. There was some self-destruction going on. Gallup had at least 3 drops in that game, and they killed drives. Like, it was a tough game for everybody, not just Dak. But to speak to your point, he does need help around him, but that's every NFL quarterback. There are only a select few that you can put out there and say, all right, just go win us the game. Even Aaron Rodgers needs an offensive line. You know what I mean? Like, you can't put quarterbacks out there and expect them to produce without having guys out there that can produce at a high enough level to have the offense execute on a consistent basis. So
look at Carson Wentz. He struggles when he doesn't have everything perfect. So
yeah,
I don't know.
look.
I feel like all that mainstream TV stuff's trying to talk me into him not being.
No. Dak is a good player. I used to be vehemently against Dak getting big time money. He, to me, is the perfect quarterback for that team. And you also got, and you know this as a Dallas Cowboys fan, you also got to be able to handle all the BS that comes with being the Cowboys quarterback. Because there's a lot of scrutiny. More so than maybe any other quarterback in the league. The Dallas Cowboys quarterback gets the most scrutiny in the league. And so I think Dak is unflappable in that regard. And a lot of that stuff just rolls off his back. I think he's the perfect quarterback, has the perfect temperament to be the Dallas Cowboys starting quarterback. So I really like him, and he's taken huge strides in his improvement watching him this year.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate your time. I'm going to get off here and let you talk to some other people.
Yeah, man. Hey, I appreciate you chiming in, man, and congratulations again, man. I'm really happy for you.
Thank you so much. And I know you're looking forward to Thanksgiving again this year. Don't let them steal all your food.
Hey, I'm not. And I'm happy that we don't have to play y'all this year, so I don't have to take an L on Thanksgiving. So I'm really happy for that too.
Well, I thought we were going to hand the Bills a quick whipping.
Yeah, nah.
It's going to be a little rougher than what I thought.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah. Yep. It's going to be a much more of a dogfight than you thought. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, buddy. Well, you have a blessed night.
All right, man. Likewise.
All right, peace.
So always good to catch up on boy CD, man, and he's a Cowboys fan, as you heard, and you can actually hear the Southern drawl in his voice. Love talking to my man CD. So that was awesome, and you know I think Dak he's a really good quarterback. If you haven't seen that this year and you don't understand that at this point, then you just don't get it. You know, Dak has matured from the guy that everything had to be perfect around him to now he's got a legit number 1 wide receiver. He's got some guys out there that he can spread the football around to. I think Jason Witten coming back, even though Witt is way past his prime, I think that was also a huge lift to that Cowboys team. And to Dak, took some of that leadership pressure off of him as well. So I like Dak Prescott, man. I do. You're on live with your man, Louis T. Who am I speaking with? Hello? So I like the move. And it's only a matter of time before he gets paid. So looking forward to seeing what he commands in terms of pay from the Dallas Cowboys. It's in the longer Jerry waits, the higher that total goes up. So we're gonna see. But you're on live with your man Louis T. Who am I speaking with? Hello. Every time that person calls in, they never answer. I'm just gonna stop taking their call. They never pick up the phone. I don't know what's going on there. But looking at some of the games over the weekend, well, let's get to some comments. How about we do that? Let's see. Shaq Bryant says, what do you think about the Falcons and what are our biggest needs? Well, one, you got to get to the quarterback, man. That's been your biggest issue this year is the lack of ability to get to the quarterback. Too many quarterbacks have too much time to throw the football against your defense. It's part of the reason why you don't get off the field on third downs. My Redskins have a similar problem, so I know the struggle. You're the worst in the league on third down, on defense. We're second, and we have the same problem. We can't get after the quarterback consistently. So, yes, that to me is your biggest need right now is you need to get after the quarterback. You don't do it well enough, and it's really stunting the growth of your team as a whole because we know that the talent is there on that Falcons. That's why you're the most disappointing team this year. It's because the talent is there, but you can't get to the quarterback. You're on live with your man, Louis T. Who am I speaking with?
What it do, Lou? The Black Al B.
What's going on, Black Al B? What's good with you?
Same old drama, man. First I want to say score to my Minnesota Vikings.
Indeed.
You know, we had a week off. Played your guys on Thursday Night Football. ugly win, but I'll take it anywhere I can get it.
Oh yeah, ain't no such thing as an ugly win in this league. They just wins. 3 weeks from now, ain't nobody gonna look back at 19-9 and say, "Man, that was an ugly win." You know what they're gonna say? That was a win. So,
Right.
you know what I mean? And you take them any way you can get them.
Well, it's starting to feel like 2004, 2005 Vikings. We got players getting in trouble off the field. Javon Curse got picked up by the police.
Saw that. Mm-hmm.
DUI, driving with under the influence, had an unpermitted weapon on him. So I know that's the whole Vikings bullshit.
Yep.
You know
Damn.
how that goes. So now I'm thinking about we need to start packaging something together to get some of these cornerbacks that want to get off these teams, man. I want to package something to get Chris Harris, man, from Denver.
Yeah. That dude,
I'm trying to see
it's
what
going
we
to take
can
a
package together.
lot.
We got Holton Hill coming back off an 8-game suspension.
Yep.
So, if Xavier acts like he wants to start playing like doo-doo,
Yeah.
you have to sit him down. Like you Holton Hill in there. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah. I liked Holton Hill. I didn't like him as much as the other Texas corner that y'all got this year, undrafted, or it was late round. I think it was 7th round. But Holton Hill is a much longer, faster corner. The thing about Holton Hill is he's a knucklehead. That was his problem at Texas. It's been his problem already in the league already. So I'm never one to want to count on a dude that has never been accountable. So hard to really start leaning on a dude that at any moment could get suspended, could do something stupid off the field and get suspended, could test positive for something off the field, anything. Just you never want to put yourself in that kind of position. But the dude is definitely talented. As for getting a guy like Chris Harris Jr., it's going to take a hell of a lot. Denver's already said, if we going to move him, you're going to have to make us move him. So I don't know if you really want to give up what it's going to take to get your hands on Chris Harris Jr.
Yeah, they might want like a first rounder or early second rounder.
Yeah. I think at minimum, that's what it would take.
Yikes.
So.
Yeah, I don't know. Ain't Chris Harris about to be like 30?
Yeah, no, he's still up there, but he's still playing at a high-ass level, man. Like, his football IQ through the roof. And I keep waiting for him to lose a step. And it may happen overnight. That from age 30 to 31, it could happen just like that. But I watched him this weekend versus the Colts, and he was raiding T.Y. Hilton back pocket, bro. Like, T.Y. could... Man, T.Y. could not shake him. T.Y. might have been lucky to have 3 catches in the game, bro. That's what he's still doing, man.
Maybe something like that. But I don't know what it is with these guys from Florida, man. They grew up in Florida. You got Javon Curse. There's problems with Dalvin about his off-the-field activities coming in.
Yeah.
What's with these guys from Florida, man? They don't got nothing to do down there.
It's rough, bro. You come from these neighborhoods where, it's hard to even make it out. They proud... to just make it out. And so, I never question these dudes because I didn't grow up in their shoes. I didn't grow up in their environment. But it's hard to sometimes separate yourself from your life the only thing you've ever known. But at some point, you hope you got enough of those guys in the locker room to kind of help them steer their life in the right direction and make smart decisions off the field as well.
Cool. Yeah. At some point you got to start thinking like that. Like, you don't know where these dudes came from. So I just hope they get in the league, get their minds right, put some of their money in their family, and keep it moving.
Let me ask you this. What's y'all next 3 games coming up?
We got the Chiefs. Believe we got the Cowboys and the Seahawks.
Ooh.
Our next 3.
So we about to find out a lot about y'all because y'all, this little 4-game winning streak been real fraudulent, man.
You already know, I know.
Yeah, this been real fraudulent over here, man.
I seen Matt Moore dropping dimes yesterday.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then we got game plan for this guy now.
Yeah. We about to find out some things, man, because I like what y'all been doing, but it's been against some less than stellar competition. I want to see.
I already told you the outlier is the Seahawks game.
Yeah.
Monday night.
Yeah. That's on the road, too, right? That's on the road.
That's on the road.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be our we pretenders or we contenders.
That's
our game right there.
That's the litmus test game. That's the measuring stick game for sure.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be there with my popcorn ready too.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. I can't wait to watch that one. That's gonna be intriguing right there, bro. For sure.
And I
All right. You know what? I may make that one of those nights. I open it up for y'all. For sure.
Definitely, because I know me and Nick won't call.
Yeah, for sure. If the game goes well, Nick will call. If the game doesn't, I don't know. Nick might be a no-show, man. I don't know.
Well, you got my word. Win or lose, I'm calling it.
Hey, that sounds good, man. Hey, Blackout B, I appreciate you, bro.
Yo, Lou, head up this season, man. Cool.
Hey, no doubt. Take care.
Yeah, likewise.
All right, so I'm anxious to see the Vikings too, man, because this 4-game winning streak they riding right now, it's been a lot of mediocre teams. I've already said that, and we know the whole track record of Kirk Cousins and his inability to beat teams with a winning record, and they about to have a nice little stretch of teams with good records, and we're gonna see how they do, man. It'll be really interesting. But now we're getting to the point of the show where I want to transition out of here. Monday Night Football is about to take place. I know none of y'all are rushing to your television set to see the Steelers host the Miami Dolphins, but nonetheless, Dolphins and the Steelers, still football. And, you know, I never turn football down, so looking forward to watching this game, seeing if the Dolphins can get their first win of the season. I don't think that's going to take place, but you never know. In any event, I thank you guys for joining me here on Rep Your Squad. I like the fact that I got other teams' fans to call in this week. I want to continue that trend. Again, if you're out there and you're a Redskins fan, you want to call in, I'm all for it. But if you're out there and you're watching this and you're a fan of the Saints or the Falcons or the Chiefs or whoever, chime in, man. Let's hear about your team and rep your squad here on the program. But in any event, check out the Louis T Network podcast that's up. It's available. This week's episode going to be focusing on the trade deadline. I think we're going to see some more moves before tomorrow's trade deadline. Looking forward to that. But like this video, subscribe to the Louis T Network if you haven't already done so, and come back and join me after Monday Night Football for Monday Night Football overtime as we break that game down. And most likely, because it's the Steelers and the Dolphins, we may end up talking about other teams and other things. So I'll see you guys after the game. Remember, if it's not your man T, it's not the best NFL coverage it could be. And hey, I appreciate you guys chiming in, and I'm here for you to rep your squad. Till next time, you guys have a good one.
Louis T Network.